Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Story to Screen podcast, the movie podcast where we review all different kinds of movies, new and old. I am your host, Chris, and joining me tonight is my good friend and comrade in arms, Joshua Ling. Hey, Josh, how's it going?
First time video for me.
Yes. No, you've been a little bit of a... You've been kind of in an isolated area where it's kind of a caveman type of area.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to criticize your area or anything like that, sorry.
No.
Anyway, folks, welcome to our first episode of 2017. Wow.
Yep.
I know we've made our milestone with 100, but 2017, wow, this is pretty exciting and a bit kind of connected with our film, for tonight's movie review.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, it's technically, the movie takes place 2019, but we'll get into that a little later. Anyway, tonight's movie review, folks, is Blade Runner from 1982.
I need your deck. This is a bad one, the worst yet. There was an escape from the off-world colonies 2 weeks ago. 6 replicants, 3 male, 3 female. They slaughtered 20...
A Blade Runner's job is to hunt down replicants. Manufactured humans you can't tell from the real thing.
What's this? Roy Batty. Probably the leader.
There was just one outfit making replicants that superhuman. The Tyrell Corporation.
Mr. Deckard, Dr. Eldon Tyrell.
I don't get it, Tyrell.
Commerce is our goal here at Tyrell. More human than human is our motto.
I was looking for 6 replicants in a city of 106 million people.
You ever see this girl, huh?
Never seen a Buzzlove.
What I didn't know was they were looking for me.
So, folks, again, this is one of the big ones for us, and this is interesting because for this review, this is probably my second or third time having watched this film, and this is actually your first time, is it not?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So, I guess this is gonna be interesting, so, first of all, what did you think of the film? What were your initial impressions? And 2, do you think it's perfectly, understandable why this is considered by many one of the best sci-fi movies, if not one of the greatest movies? Or do you think it's a very overrated film?
Well, my answer is going to sound contradictory to those 2 questions, but they're not. So I'm going to go ahead and just make my case. The first question, what did I think of it? I think it is an utterly nihilistic piece of work. I feel like it is very, very... It's trying, at the very least, to be very, very Asimov. It's trying to be very, very deep, and honestly, maybe in its time it was a lot more deep than a lot of the stuff coming out. In fact, when you really think about it, what was coming out around that time, as far as action movies go, it probably was one of the deepest action movies ever made at that point. But on a philosophical level, of course. But its philosophy is very, very, how do I put this? It's very, very strange. And it's inconsistent. That's what I'm really looking for. It's inconsistent because it's essentially saying there is no meaning, but yet there is meaning, and it isn't an existential point of view either, honestly. It's a very nihilistic viewpoint that tries to also convey a love story, which is very, very odd. But basically, does it deserve to be in the... that's not even the way you put it. You said you see why people have it as such a well-regarded piece of cinema and all this other kind of stuff? And I have to say yes, because people are sick. Quite honestly, the worldview that it expresses is every bit as inconsistent as the crazy, militant atheists that I hear in many cases on the side at reason rallies and whatever else, just kind of barking all this mantra of nothing really matters, nothing really matters. I say, if nothing really matters, why are you at a reason rally? And so, like, what does reason matter if there is nothing that matters? And so I find the movie to be almost joyful in its, and I don't mean torturing it as it's some kind of bad movie or whatever, but I think it's joyful in that it likes to, like, the characters, it almost seems like to torture themselves with how pointless the universe is. And I think a lot of people find a weird, sick, twisted sort of pleasure in torturing themselves with their own belief that there's no meaning in the world.
Yeah.
So I can totally see why people love this movie, because they're sick.
Okay, no, that's an interesting point. And I like your, the fact that you think it's a very nihilistic piece. Okay, yeah, this is... I kind of have to say as well that I find this film to be very overrated. Gorgeous to behold. I think it's a gorgeous movie. You look at these visual effects, and I mean, what they did at that time, and this is like a couple years after Star Wars, and a couple years even after 2001: A Space Odyssey, and they are phenomenal pieces of like the skyscrapers and those big, those big, the Asian woman billboard sign. I mean, the one with I don't remember what that was, if it was like a drug advertisement or something, or gum. But there's just the color palette is beautiful to behold, and I like, what I love about this movie. I love that kind of noir Pulp Fiction look to it. It was a very much of a crime story set in a futuristic world, and that's we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But as a film, and I still maintain to this day, I think it is a very thinly written plot.
Yes.
And I say that because the plot, it's very straightforward, and I think, if you just were to tell people, like, this is a movie about Harrison Ford, he's off hunting off replicants, and that's pretty much the basic plot of the story. And I feel like that's pretty much it. I mean, that's where it goes from beginning to end. And now the bigger philosophical issues or themes in this movie, I think are there, but I think that's how this movie has become appreciated over time, is because people were able to kind of dissect it because of how the script may have hinted at stuff, the visuals presented it. It's a very but I think honestly, if you were to just take the movie face value for what it is, beautiful to behold, but I think it lacks repeat viewings, unfortunately. I mean, I know I've seen it like 3 times, and you've seen it like in preparation for this review. Have you seen it like? Did you see it like just once?
Like
right?
1.5 times. 1.5 times.
Okay.
One of the things that really stands out to me that I think is very good is the fact that, to me, it's a the plot, the little plot that there is a reverse horror movie. Basically, when you have a horror movie, a slasher film in particular, you have an antagonist who's going through a string of protagonists, and you usually have 1 or 2 that survive at the end and defeat the antagonist. That's usually the way it goes. In this particular situation, we had a protagonist hunting all the antagonists. Mm-hmm. And quite honestly, the antagonists were not the most, how do I put this? They weren't very active. They didn't really have a plan. They were just kind of creating chaos. A few times they kind of allude to a plan, but it's not really set in stone. They just kind of Joker about, you know, kind of like Dark Knight, but with even less focus on the Joker, I feel like. And part of that's because they don't have long to live, and I get that and all that other kind of stuff. But, like, in the end, they kind of do the flip the script, who's the monster kind of a thing, and da-da-da. I get that, but I've never seen a reverse horror movie like that. So as far as breaking the mold, I applaud it. I do think the movie broke the mold when it came to the plot, but the plot is still very thin, like you said.
Yeah.
It leaves something to be desired. I think a little bit more motivation on the part of the antagonists would have been beneficial, which you rarely get here nowadays. Like, most of the time, the antagonist is the most compelling, with a few exceptions, like most Marvel movies, but, like, you know, basically, like, the antagonist a lot of times now is the one that's really, really fleshed out and has this tragic backstory, and you're meant to feel for him. And I don't mind feeling for an antagonist, but the protagonist is usually the one lacking. And in this one, I honestly feel like they were kind of both lacking.
Really?
Especially the antagonist.
Really? Because I thought Roy Batty is actually the best thing in this movie. Rutger Hauer's...
He's the best, but I'm saying he lacks a clear motivation that you can either get behind or get in front of and boo.
Oh, dude, I think his... I actually kind of disagree with you on there. This is interesting. Okay. I actually thought his motivation was very well fleshed out. What I liked about him was that he was willing to do anything to achieve either immortality or more life, for that matter. You don't know if he's one...
But why?
Because he knows his condition. It's funny, mention condition.
But my point is this: the movie goes against itself. It's saying nothing really matters. Then why does he want to live?
Well, I think... Why does he want to live? I think because of the circumstances that he knows that he's going to die, the fact that he knows that he has a 4-hour time limit.
Why is it inherently good that he lives in his mind?
What for? Like I guess because he wants to finally feel like the rest of humanity. Now, again, that's less.
I guess though, because
again, yeah. Now you are kind of true that maybe in terms of the whys, but I mean at the same time, do a lot of like the end goals. I mean that's his end goal. I guess maybe the movie is trying to depict. That's where the bigger, maybe the ambiguity of after that is left open.
Right.
And ambiguity can work and cannot work. Sure. I think it works in this case because here you got a guy who's willing to do anything, even to defy his own creator. When you've been stricken ill, you're trying to survive, you know. And maybe that's kind of his mentality, is that it's kind of an animalistic instinct where it's like, I'm trying to survive. I could, you know, how I survive, what I do afterwards in terms of how I survive, that's good and great when I get there, but I'm trying to figure out how I can get more life.
The acting's good in the whole thing. Like, the only part where I felt iffy about the acting was specifically the preamble to the kind of off-screen-ish love scene between Rachel and Deckard. The preamble to that is very rapey, quite honestly. It really is. It's very him forcing his will on her and saying, oh no, but your will is mine. Your will is identical to mine.
Yeah.
And it's like, it feels very squiggy. I'm just like, oh.
Yeah.
Harrison Ford really comes across as a scruffy-looking nerd herder. Honestly.
Yeah.
Han Solo, he's charming to the max. This Deckard guy, he's not dating my daughter, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's let's talk about Harrison Ford before we go into other things that we like. But let's talk about Harrison Ford because this really ranks up there with Indiana Jones and Star Wars.
I have a story to tell about that.
Oh, go ahead.
I was actually really quickly on the Reformed Pub, which is a Facebook group for Reformed Christians and stuff like that, and I asked about Blade Runner and people's opinions because I was like, did I miss something? Kind of thing. I wanted to talk to some people and get their opinions. One guy said, quite honestly, it's just Harrison Ford being a great actor in a sci-fi setting with great music. And I said, so Star Wars without the good story. And he said, yeah, basically. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Which, by the way, that's another thing I love. Vangelis' soundtrack is fantastic.
Almost
fantastic.
It's almost just godly. There's something godly about it that just it just feels it actually fits into the atmosphere of this film. It makes it feel like there's something supernatural.
Now, I will say it's not Chariots of Fire.
No.
Well, that's Vangelis' crowning achievement, let's be honest. But Blade Runner definitely does a good job for its movie. Vangelis does a great job for Blade.
Oh, yeah, and I got the soundtrack. I mean, I love the soundtrack. If there's one thing I love, it's the soundtrack. But going back to the Rick Deckard character, you know, I like Harrison Ford in this role. It's very different from what he did with Indiana Jones and Han Solo. But what I liked about it, you really sense I mean, at this point in time, he's like the biggest star in the world, and he definitely has this uber man type of quality. You know, he's definitely mimicking or he's kind of bringing in that Humphrey Bogart, that old 1940s, William Holden type of personality, which I think was very rare for a lot of actors at this point in time, and I think he's kind of lending that aspect to this film very well. But when I'm watching him, I think performance-wise, I actually think it's kind of weak in the sense that because according to Ridley Scott, and Harrison Ford, Ridley didn't give him a whole lot of directions. Apparently, he did not give him hardly any directions at all. And at the same time, I wonder if that kind of works because he's supposed to be this kind of humdrum.
He's supposed to be, personally invested in him.
Well, not just that, but the fact that the character-wise is that he's kind of humdrum. He's kind of like, I'm just going through the motion of life. I don't really have anything to live for other than being this, hired bounty hunter to kill all these, replicants or whatever crime situations arise. And he's kind of humdrum about it. And I kind of wonder if that was kind of what Ridley Scott was going for, because I'm not going to give you a lot of directions because that was by design. To kind of the lack of direction was deliberate on Ridley Scott's part because he wanted to convey that. Does that make any sense? And
that's possible. I could see that.
And and apparently Harrison and Scott had a lot of arguments about that. But I don't really quite know whether to consider it a great performance or kind of like it's a lackluster performance because I don't know. Because of that fact that I know about and what I think that thing or that possible deliberate direction may have ended up in the film, I don't know if that works or not, and maybe it does. I don't know.
It's almost like he doesn't have enough material, even in the dialogue itself, to really latch on to anything. Honestly, I think the character's written poorly but performed well.
Yeah,
I think that the only thing that's written terribly is that kind of preamble. I don't think the best actor. I don't think Olivier could make that scene, work. That preamble to the love scene that was just badly written.
And just that was so weird too. And then, okay, now let me pop this question to you. Are you aware of this famous theory that Deckard is a replicant?
No, but I figured that was what the theory was, because you talked to me about a theory, and the more I watched it, the more I thought that was the theory, because he is playing it somewhat wooden. But I think that's on purpose, like you were saying. I think it's a great performance. Don't get me wrong, I really do. Even though I say it's wooden, I think it's a great performance. It's just that there's not much there.
No,
there just isn't.
Well, because did your cut have the unicorn where he's sleeping at the piano and he sees the unicorn?
Yeah, what the heck was up with that?
Okay, okay. Now you remember at the very end.
I'm like, okay, unicorns. There's some kind of super fancy thing Ridley Scott wants to do. Ooh, a unicorn. What does it mean? I really dislike when let me just do this little quick rant. I hate when storytellers and directors do something that they throw out some breadcrumbs in one direction, and it's like, why would he throw out breadcrumbs in that direction? I guess we'll have to follow it, and there's nothing to follow. There's no path.
No,
there's nothing.
No, and then
I'm not. Yeah, go ahead.
No, and then you get the ending where Deckard finds the little paper-shaped unicorn, and then he hears the
unicorn.
Yeah, and then he hears the voice of the advisor. And I don't really even buy into the whole replicant theory. Now, maybe
even
there's
if it is a thing. Yeah, like even if it is a thing, so what?
So yeah, exactly. So what? And I think maybe
even if the unicorn means something, so what?
Yeah, exactly. And so what? And two, is it because they want the film is trying to say he has to? Okay, I think this is what I think this is what the film is trying to say, or maybe his arc. He's trying to find his humanity. Again, like through this whole journey that he's taking, he's beginning to find his own humanity by hunting down these replicants, because here are replicants that are artificial life, that were just machines who are built to look like human beings, who even feel like human beings, because they have, apparently when you shoot them, there is bodily tissue in them, there's blood and all that stuff.
They're not. They're bio machines. They're not mechanical.
Yeah. So you're kind of left wondering, is his journey is about finding his own humanity while hunting down these replicants? And there is something kind of interesting when he kills each of these replicants, especially with the two women. There is kind of like a sympathy to him. Like, with one, he kind of when he kills the first one. He's shooting her and she crashes through all those glasses. You get the sense that maybe he felt sorry for her or something like that, and then he kills the other one because he's trying to put her out of her misery, and then when he comes to the end, he finds that, hey, these people are just as human as I am, and now that's kind of giving me a reason to live again with Rachel.
You know what I think it means overall? The thing that I get out of it is life sucks. but make the best of it that you can and enjoy yourself while you can. That seems to be the point of the whole thing.
Enjoy yourself while you can. Yeah. Deckard definitely took advantage of that with Rachel.
And I think that the point of having the replicants was, here's an accelerated version of a human life. This is someone who has to do all the ups and downs of life in how many years did they have? 3 years or something?
Four.
4 years. They have to have all the ups and downs of life in 4 years. They're seeking to have all the ups and downs of 100 years in 4. And it's this idea that they're living life on this super high, crazy level, and they just want to live and live on. And it's almost like we do feel that, but it's much slower, and we don't realize it. And so Deckard's realizing through that experience of hunting these guys down his own mortality and his own how futile his own struggle really is. It's just slower, and so he doesn't realize how futile it is until he sees it super sped up.
I know you didn't like this film, but this No. I think it's in Halloween. We're getting a sequel, Blade Runner 2049. Yes.
Uh-huh.
And the sequel's going to pick up where this one left off. Well, 30 years later, with Ryan Gosling being the new Blade Runner. Mm-hmm. Are you interested in seeing that sequel? And if that movie will provide answers that maybe that this movie failed to answer, if it all plays with those at all, would you be interested
in seeing it? Is that the question?
Yeah, and if it has those questions, would you be interested? Do you think that would help this movie? Or first of all, are you interested in seeing the next one?
I'm interested in seeing what people say about it. If it's even like a little bit positive, I am interested in seeing it. Like, even if it's just a little bit positive, because I feel like I'm missing something with this other one. I do feel like left high and dry, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like, and so there is a curiosity, even if it is a morbid curiosity, to see what happens. But like, if you're asking me if I think that this is a fixable story or movie, yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. You can totally say the same things, the same nihilism, even if you want. Like, I don't understand why you would want to, but that's beside the point. You could give this exact same message with these exact same characters and just move the sequence of things around and give a little bit more clarity here and there, and this movie would blow people's minds. It would be fantastic. And it's already blown people's minds just because of its concepts, you know? I'm saying that it's just a hot mess of cool concepts and very inconsistent philosophy. But if people want to use inconsistent philosophy, as long as you're consistent with the way you make the story cool, mm-hmm. then you can have total bull honky philosophy and make it compelling.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly look at Harry Potter. That's me picking on it a little bit, but that's the way I feel about Harry Potter.
Yeah, for me, I'm actually more excited for that sequel because I'm kind of getting like a plan. I actually kind of got from that first teaser that I saw. Did you see that teaser, by the way?
No, I don't think I have.
Okay, check it out. It looks great. And the fact that you got Harrison Ford back is cool, but I'm getting kind of like... I mean, I have no idea what the plot is. They've kept that plot highly under wraps. So it's anyone's guess of what it's going to be.
So we don't even know if this is a reboot or a sequel or what?
No, it is a sequel. That is 100% confirmed that it is a sequel. In terms of what it will be about plot-wise, it's all under wraps. So Ridley Scott is an executive producer on it. He's not directing it. It's this other guy that I mentioned. And I think he has a lot of interesting... He gives a lot of... Dude, check out... If you see just one film, check out Prisoners. Okay. I highly recommend Prisoners with Hugh Jackman and Terrence Howard and Paul Dano. Really great little thriller. It's 3 hours long, but it's a great thriller. But what I think about this movie... You know, I like this kind of like Planet of the Apes kind of look to it. There's kind of something like you don't know. One, you're finally finding out about what's happened to Deckard and that possibly. You know, I don't think we're going to get the whole like replicant. I think that's completely out the window. And I think they've officially established no, he's not a replicant. He's a human being. I don't know. We'll see. But the fact that he's still alive definitely throws the whole replicant thing out the window, in my opinion. Possibly.
Unless he's a special project, but yeah.
Possibly, yeah. So that I'm excited for. But, I think this is going to wrap up our review on Blade Runner.